Getting around, now that's always a bit of a topic, isn't it? What do we actually need? Something like this, for example. A simple tire costs around 15 euros. And what do we not need? This thing here, a 310 tire starting from 300 euros. Does that even make sense anymore? And how does it even ride? Welcome to 1000 PS TV. There are some bikes that just don't make any sense. And that's exactly why they're so fascinating. And I think the Benda LFS 700 falls right into that category, because what we've got here is a cruiser with a pure inline 4-cylinder engine from China, fitted with a 310 rear tire. It's a properly wild recipe, and there's a lot more to it than you might think. So let's take a closer look with a quick walk around. Starting up front, fully adjustable suspension, upside down fork, then twin disc brakes with radially mounted Brembo setup. So yeah, this is serious. A 19-inch front tire, which of course also affects the handling, but I'll get to that later. And up front, the design is wild, no question. Right here, this is the air intake. Yes, it's really the intake. Stealth Fighter is honestly a pretty spot-on description. Above that, we've got the low beam, and off to the sides, you've got the position lights, which double up as indicators. Move further up and you'll find the wide handlebars mounted far forward. The switchgear is familiar. I've already seen the same layout on other Chinese bikes. It works, does the job, but it's not exactly pretty. Same goes for the TFT display. It gives me the key information while riding, but doesn't offer a huge range of features. And in bright sunlight from behind, the screen isn't the easiest to read. Moving on, here's the tank with its large plastic cover. I did notice something a bit off, maybe it's just our unit, but when you sit down, this cover creaks in an unpleasant way. I can't say for sure if that's a general issue or just something with our specific bike, but when you're maneuvering at a standstill or getting on for the first time, you do notice it. And that's a bit of a downside in terms of perceived quality. Other than that, there's not much I didn't like. What I did like and what really stands out is the aluminium frame with this unique surface finish, which continues on the aluminium swing arm as well. I've never seen anything like it before. Looks properly wild, and it definitely grabs people's attention. On the way here to our filming location, I can't tell you how many car drivers turned their heads to look at it while I was riding. Eyes on the road, folks, even if the Benda is a real feast for the eyes. So, the frame, an absolute dream. And here the heart of it all, the pure inline 4-cylinder. 700 cubic centimeters. The power figures vary a bit depending on what you find online. I've seen it listed at 97 horsepower, and honestly that seems believable from the way the engine performs. Throttle response is nice and direct. There is a bit of drivetrain lash, unfortunately, but I'll tell you more about how it rides when we get to the test impressions. One real highlight is this side section right here, marked BD702. We're back to fighter jet vibes again. And that exhaust trim piece, yes, I'm calling it a trim piece on purpose because it's just a metal cover. Underneath you can see the small pipes coming out of the catalytic converter. Benda has covered it all up quite elegantly, so it really looks sporty and aggressive. I really like that too. Now if we move on to the rear end, that's where the real highlight of this bike is. And that's the 310 rear tire. I've never seen a tire like that on a production motorcycle before. Sure, the handling does suffer a bit, I'll talk more about that later, but when you're just standing in front of it or next to it, it makes a serious impression. It looks massive, and you don't often see something like that, even in road construction. Round the back, there's another Brembo braking system too. That means everything's nicely built with a quality feel. And apart from the creaking from the tank cover, there really wasn't anything negative that stood out to me. And things continue on a positive note once you're in the saddle. Right then, seat height just under 700 millimeters. I'm 175 tall. And even just standing still, I've got a solid footing. Once I sit down, it's even better. One advantage is that the seat tapers off very narrowly at the front. So if you're on the shorter side and trying to maneuver the bike, it gives you a good stance. The inseam length is very compact. You really start to feel the typical cruiser layout when you try to move it around. That far forward handlebar, when it comes to tight maneuvers, I do have to stretch out a bit. And when I try to push the bike, which weighs in at 284.5 kilos, it gets a bit tricky. Otherwise, ergonomically, it's your classic cruiser setup, foot pegs mounted far forward. That does make it fun to ride, especially when you're sitting back in proper easy rider style, back curved, spine racked. It looks cool. And like I said before, it's a real head turner. Visually, the Benda has loads going for it. But before we dive into the riding impressions, there's something else I want to show you that really affects how it handles. So, like a typical cruiser, we've got a very raked out front fork. That means the wheelbase is quite long, 1.72 meters to be precise. I did something similar ages ago with the BMW R18. I said back then, the wheelbase is roughly the length of a Howie, and me at 175, I'm almost exactly the wheelbase of this bike. So with that fact and that image in mind, let's jump into the riding part. And with that, welcome from the saddle of the Benda LFS 700. Just so you know, I'm recording this bit after the main presentation. So it's my grand finale for today, and while we're at it, during the main segment I didn't have a check engine light, but now, yep, it's on. No idea why. We'll definitely follow that up with Benda. But what matters now is, how does this bike actually ride? 19-inch front wheel, 1.72 meter wheelbase, 310 rear tire. All of it powered by a pure inline 4-cylinder. That combination is unique in the motorcycle world, and we're kicking off in a pretty fitting way with a couple of tight hairpins. Because let's be honest, this mix of raked out forks and a massive rear tire doesn't exactly scream cornering king. And yeah, in reality that holds true. You really have to push the Benda into the corners. So if you're going for a test ride, give it an hour or two. Because in the first few minutes you might genuinely ask yourself, wait, have I forgotten how to ride a bike? Because getting it around bends is not intuitive at first. But you do get used to it over time. The Benda definitely has a learning curve. But once you've cracked it, it rewards you. It holds its line in corners really well. Of course, lean angle is limited. That's just part of the cruiser setup. I've just had a little run-in with the guys from the roads department here. Better play it safe and not get in their way. They're working while I'm having fun. All right then, cheers. But back to the handling. The faster it goes, the better the Benda gets. In the city, those tight maneuvers are honestly a bit of a pain. But once this 284 kilo beast is rolling, it becomes a lot more manageable and feels smoother overall. What's not quite as smooth is the throttle response. You'll definitely notice this. At low revs, there's some drivetrain lash, unfortunately. It's like two worlds colliding. And of course, I'm hoping it'll be picked up by people, even though this is a truly unique bike with some very peculiar handling that takes some getting used to. It's not for everyone. But once you've got the feel for it, once you understand the Benda and know how to read it, well then it's almost a dream to ride. Just because it's so mad, not everything in this world has to make perfect sense. It just has to be fun. And that's exactly what the Benda delivers. So there you have it, my riding impressions of the Benda LFS 700. Definitely a very individual character of a bike, but if you're open to it, it'll reward you with a one-of-a-kind riding experience. Let me quickly mention the pillion seat as well. Because of the short rear end, it's pretty narrow. It gets quite tight at the back. I think it's fine for short trips, but a long journey, probably not what you'd want. Especially since the passenger foot pegs are angled in a way that makes things a bit awkward. If you try to sit back there, you need to have pretty flexible ankles to plant yourself securely. I couldn't really manage it. I always ended up standing more flat-footed. So yeah, for a quick trip to the ice cream shop, that'll work. But convincing my girlfriend to ride all the way down to Lake Garda on the back, that's probably not going to happen. Let's wrap things up with the Benda LFS 700. In Austria it costs 11,500 euros. That's a fair chunk of change for a bike from the Far East. But at the same time, if you compare it with what else is out there, what options do you really have? It pretty much stands alone in the market. Other cruisers typically come with a V-twin or maybe a V4 if you look towards Italy. But a pure inline 4-cylinder at this price, that's genuinely one of a kind. And I don't think this will be someone's first bike, not for someone just getting into riding or with an empty garage. I think this is going to be a special machine for people who already have something at home, but who say, hey, when I go out for a Sunday cruise, I want something a bit out of the ordinary that doesn't break the bank. And that's where the Benda LFC 700 comes in. What I really liked was the engine, the drivetrain and the styling, that unique unconventional look. What I liked less, as I already mentioned, were the minor quality issues, especially the creaking from the tank area. But aside from that, the Benda LFC is as unique as it is well-rounded. It's a complete package, a bike I can wholeheartedly recommend, and one I truly hope to see often out on the road. Because Benda, well, they're clearly doing their own thing. We've already tested the Napoleon Bob 500 for you with those organ-style fork covers. So yeah, Benda is being really bold in the European market. They're building bikes that the established brands just don't offer, simply because they stand out from the crowd and break the mold in a big way. Now, of course, I'd love to hear what you think of the Benda LFC 700. Maybe you've already had the chance to test ride it. Benda's been very proactive in a good way getting people onto this bike. So if you've got an opinion, drop it in the comments, even if you haven't ridden it yet. I'm genuinely curious. Thanks a lot for watching. Subscribe to the channel, give us a like, you know the drill, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye for now.